All right, everybody, welcome back to Room A-108. I'm your host, David. Joining me, as always, my co-host, CJ. And today we have another special episode and another special guest, Thornwood legend, Thornwood alumni. He helped take Thornwood basketball all the way downstate, leaving his stamp on one of the most iconic high school runs in our school's history. From South Holland to the national stage, he suited up for multiple D1 programs and brought that same grit and IQ at every stop. Now he's the mind behind Blueprint Hoops, that's shaping future hoopers, not just to score, but to understand the game. A trainer, a motivator, and a blueprint for how to evolve beyond the game. Room A108 gladly introduces Trey Blue.
Oh man, thank you. That was beautiful. Man.
Oh man, it's rightfully so, man. Gotta make sure we give you your flowers, man.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you on. I mean, we were talking about it before we came on the episode just now, and it's like, you're one of the first people that popped up. We've been trying to get you on for a while, just with, busy schedules. You got your thing going on. We got, 2 full-time jobs over here too. So just glad we can finally get you on, and glad you take the time and, come on the pod with us, man.
Oh, man. We in the gym with the kids, but we had to get over here, man, and make it happen. Y'all got something great going on. So like I said, I'm glad to be here myself.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Definitely. Long time coming.
Yeah, right.
Definitely. Man, it's like glad we was able to, get this to the finish line, man. For sure.
So you're the third Thornwood basketball alumni we've had on now. We had Reggie, then we've had Jeremy, and so now you're on. So it's like we're getting all these perspectives of it, but from like 2000 to about 2010, Thornwood was considered the top tier basketball programs, so how does it feel to be, considered one of the legends of one of the best basketball programs pretty much in the state, even some people say the country for that time?
I mean, that definitely was a time, before I had my time. I was going to watch it, in the stands, seeing them guys do their thing. So it's definitely a blessing to hear those words by my name, like you say, before people, go on their journey upstairs. It's cool, man. I don't think about it like that too often. Yeah. I'm still living in the moment, giving back to the kids, doing everything I can from that. So I don't, like I say, but it's good. It's good to know that, people remember those things, because it was, like I tell my kids, one of the best times of my life. So it is a pleasure to know that y'all even remember those things.
For sure. One of the things that comes with talking about like Illinois basketball is the city versus suburbs debate always comes up when you mention Illinois basketball, and you actually transferred from Julian, correct? Yeah. So before I ask you like your take on city versus suburbs, what kind of were your expectations leaving Julian and then coming to the Wood?
Yeah, and like I was at the Wood first.
Okay.
So I went there my freshman year, ended up playing varsity. I think that was 03, 04 maybe. How can I say this? This will come up in a later conversation, probably today in this episode. But me and Coach had a little spat. I ended up leaving. After playing, like I said, having a good year, having a great year, having that experience playing on varsity as a freshman, but I ended up breaking my foot, and he was kind of expecting me to come back a little bit, because again, I had a solid year, and I just wasn't ready, and that turned into, like I said, long story short, me ended up leaving and going to Julian, which was it did so much for me. As you can see, when I came back, we were able to do all we did. I was a different basketball player. Going to the city now, I won't say it was only just the city. I do think at that time the city was, it was a little different than it is now. It was some really good players, but my coach he was rough. It was tough every day, And again, I was also in there with some very good players. Everybody else on my team went Division I, so it was weights, protein, just stuff that I had never did before. The schedule was different. It was more rigorous. And I learned a lot. So bringing that back to the suburbs, I believe it showed in my game, 100%. I've always said that I was able to bring some of that, back with me, that mentality. And again, we had a great season. We beat a couple, actually, that one game against Washington, beat a couple city teams. But yeah, no, absolutely, it had my mind right. It had me know that this is gonna get hard, and I was okay with that. So I, salute to Jack for that year, even though it got messed up. I don't know if y'all know what happened. Like Mac, now Kashwa, we were 25-2 with Julian. We had a kid on our team that came from Canada. Long story short, they couldn't find his birth certificate in Canada or something, so they turned all of our wins to losses. Everybody, not just me, everybody left the school. But again, I wasn't trying to go to this school, that school. I came back home. Kern accepted me. Everybody accepted me back. So that's how that happened. It's a story that not a lot of people know. A lot of people don't know I went to Julian for that year. But that was a fun year.
One of the things that Jeremy mentioned, shout out Jeremy Allison, he had mentioned when we asked him like the difference between city, suburb hoops, he had mentioned, both him and his brothers who played, on the west side of Chicago, he mentioned the flair that suburb coaches and teams weren't quite ready for. They didn't like, the flashiness that city kids played with. Is that something?
The freedom.
Yeah, for sure. I think he used that word
He
too.
did, yep.
So is that freedom and rhythm? I think he used those words. Yeah. But is that something that you would agree with? And then with yes or no, but then like what would be your kind of outlook on the city versus suburbs debate?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I can't speak for all city teams, but I do know our city team. He gave us freedom as hard as it was and much as we had to defend and all those things. He did allow you to play the game. Now, did he reel us in at times? Absolutely. And I think I brought that back with me, even though that was our mode. We did have plenty of times where we slowed it super down, but, there were times where I said, all right, it's time to get busy. Yeah. And he allowed me to do that. Not just me, Reggie as well. So, yeah, but there's a big difference. But, at the same time, we were able to have the minds. I feel like if you put them both together, like having the mental of being able to slow the game down when you may be outmatched, that's smart, and if you should win the game, then you play a little more free. And if you run into some hiccups, then you change up things a little bit. So I think, I think that's why we went downstate, because we were able to do both. We were able to score when we needed to, but then, hey, if the 6'8" guy down there, 6'9", and we only got 5 guards, we were able to still beat you. And, a lot of people couldn't figure that out, but, I think, like I said, we were able to put both together. I did bring the city flair and the freedom back to our team. But again, there's no question we still had that high IQ. Curran was very rigorous with IQ and learning and situational basketball and that type of stuff. So, like I said, I think both. And again, I mean, I think now, you asked me city, suburbs. You asked back then, or you asking today?
Either whichever way you want to go with it.
I mean, I think back then the city had a certain toughness to it. The majority of them wanted to play basketball. I think that part has died down. And I think now in today's age, your suburban teams, not even just the South Suburbs, if you look at the past couple state championships, you got the Glenbards and, those further suburbs, they're been in the gym with certain trainers since babies now. And the money is being spent to be in those facilities, doing agility training, doing all these things that I didn't have no trainer in. I haven't trained until I got to college. I never had I went to basketball practice. We went to play ball. I had no trainer. I went to shoot around by myself. But now you see, and not just here, with what I'm doing around the country, those kids that are in the suburbs that have access to certain things, those are now more so the ones that are really, really good. Now, don't get it twisted. You're always going to have your city kid that's just built a little bit different than everybody, went through some different situations than other people and just got a different chip on his shoulder. But it's not as frequent as it was when I was playing. It was some real killers, coming from that. And again, Chicago, you got kids want to, just the drill place. Everybody want to, that's popular now for kids. I believe that's not just that. Most kids want to hang out. We got the phones and all that. It's not a seeping out. Everybody, all the guys want to hoop here in the city, and that's just my take on being in this little world for the last couple of years. So, yeah.
So, I wanted to ask you too, because I asked Reggie about this when he was on, that you were talking about you came back to Thornwood, and that's when you all, like you said, made it downstate. What was it like, that year? That was your junior year, right? When you all made it downstate. Yeah. And, it's funny that you brought that up. You like if that Washington game, you were saying, you all slowed it down a little bit more, and you all kind of, that game, like I said, I told Reggie the same thing. That's one of the best games I've seen in person, man. That game was crazy.
Yeah, it was
but
fun.
Just that season in general, what was that like for you, and what was it like being on that team? I brought up Murky being a part of that team, being the unsung hero, because that he can hoop, but he didn't have that role out there. And then you have Rashad, Cam, all of them. So
Rashad got his son in my program, man. So
nice.
See Rashad every week, but I talk about Murky to this day.
Yeah.
To all my kids.
Yeah.
As crazy as that may seem, he didn't score no points.
Yeah.
But you was there watching the games. He did everything else.
Yep.
And there's always a spot for those type of kids. There's always minutes for those type of kids that just play harder than everybody else. And I didn't understand that when I was on the court with him.
Yeah.
He would help, but I'm like, dang, I know somebody could maybe do a little more. But every time he would do, I'm like, nah, coach know what he doing. And everybody we would play, people would be talking about Murky. I'm like, no, he's one of the toughest kids on the team, not gonna make no mistakes. And like I said, with my kids, of course I teach them to have some game and all that, but that's a lesson that I was able to see. That team, coming back to that squad, it was no one, because they were bad. None of the kids that were on the team when I came back, Goldie and Lante had left and stuff. I can't remember who all was on the team, but they had a pretty bad year my sophomore year when I was at Julian.
Yep.
So nobody was expecting us to win no games, let alone go downstate. And it was something I will never forget. It was just togetherness. It was hard. We did not understand it going through it with the way he was teaching and coaching us, but it benefited us so much, and that was why we were able to get, like I said, beating HF, beating Washington 5 overtimes with nobody over 6'3". Yep. Washington had 3 Division I players on that team. Played against Dre the next year in prep school. Mike Haynes, Mario Little. Like, I remember that game. And they was talking wow shit. Before, in the layup line, just, we gonna whoop. Y'all Suburban, we finna fold y'all. Mm-hmm. And it was on, man. It was an exciting game. They tried to do what we did, where we held the ball in the overtime, and they held it. But that was a fun basketball game. I remember that one. Reggie saved the day for us, man. He made that shot. I messed my foot up in that game too, man.
Really?
I don't know how much time we got, but
no.
This story, man. Since you brought up the game, I got to say something about it. We played them in that game, and one of the overtimes, those LeBrons, they were like navy and white. They was like one of the first kind of LeBrons came. It was cold, man. They would matched our uniforms perfect, but the shoestrings would always rip every couple of days, every week or something. And so I had swapped out the shoestrings plenty of times, and lo and behold, in this game, the shoestring popped. So I got no shoestring. So in like the second or third overtime, I had to swap shoes with one of my teammates on the bench that wore my size, and I ended up getting MRSA and having like a staph infection on my foot. After I finished the game, everything was fine. We won. A couple days later, I like stepped on, like in the house between the bathroom, if you got the carpet and the tile, the little screws popping out. I stepped on. It didn't hurt me, but it just made like a little cut on my foot, and that's where this infection grew on my foot. So
MRSA ain't nothing to play with. That's tough. Dang, I didn't even know that. Before we played HF, I was in the hospital for 3 days. They lanced my foot. This was in the newspaper and all that. They had cut my foot open, drained it all out. I was limping for real in that game. And then we go to 3 overtimes. But we ended up with it, man. And I watched that game recently, like a couple years ago. I got the film, and I was in pain. I wasn't in so much. I didn't get to go to we had like a pet. We won. We had a pet rally. I couldn't go to. I missed all that. Like, ended up, playing in the game downstate. Ended up playing good. But yeah, man, it was as good as that memory was. It's a crazy memory for me because I put that shoe, and I know that's what did it. Not to say that his foot was dirt, like that's just stuff, wearing somebody else's stuff. And yeah, I had to have surgery on my foot and everything, man. It was crazy.
When you think about, getting ready to leave grade school and entering your freshman year, whether it's your freshman year at the Wood or coming back for your junior year, was there any pressure on you from the previous era teams? You got your Eddies, David Moss, Melvin, Jeremy. Shout out Jeremy again. Did those teams and those players mold you in any way? And then was there any pressure getting there? Like, man, I got some pretty decent shoes to fill coming here.
I was at grammar school at McKinley. My pops would take me to the games. I was thirsty. I was just ready to go do that. I was there. I went because my sister went to Thornwood. So I went and watched Eddy. I went downstate when they went downstate and lost to Livingston. I was there. As a little kid. And then I get a little older, and then I go watch Jeremy and Eric Gray. I was like amazed. I'm like, the ball from 30 feet. This is a good time. The gym full, it's rocking, it's cracking, and I'm like, yeah, I can't wait to get here. I know they don't know those type of things, but I was definitely in the stands watching them. For one game they played against Anthony Harris. I wasn't playing. I remember everything that happened in the game though. And so absolutely and even when I got there, guys like Lonte, ATL, even Goldie, even though it was a rough time that they were going through, and I know they all know it. I wouldn't have been able to deal with, and me and Coach Kern Cool, we talked about it a lot. I wouldn't have been able to deal with how he was as a coach if I didn't see them go through some things. Guys like Westbrook. I was a kid watching, these things. And again, even though none of them ever, they wouldn't know this, but I learned a lot from all them guys, man, whether it was good or bad or to just see, again, how to deal with certain things. And I had a super thirst for it though, because it was Thornwood, it was cracking, it was a time. Them games was fun.
It was special during that time. That's why I was saying that from 2000, 2010, man. It was.
It was. Like I said, it's a blessing to be used in same conversation with them guys, because like I said, I was a fan before I had that jersey on. It was. At that time, you go to your neighborhood school. Yeah. You go with, it wasn't. I went to prep school, so ain't nothing wrong with prep school. But now everybody goes, and I think it's necessary to maneuver a little differently now. Don't get me wrong, but back then it was who going to Thornwood.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, no, man, I had a absolute time watching them guys pack that gym out, big, beautiful gym. Watching just the school be behind them. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm trying to come do this immediately.
So I got a question for you. So now, I mean, we're gonna get back to where you're at now in your career, but being the coach that you are now, if Trey Blue now can coach Trey Blue in high school,
oh man,
how would you approach that?
Oh man, it'd be completely different. Like I said, me and Curran, we had our differences. We ended up talking about him a couple years ago. You know, he was a young coach. He didn't really, like how we were talking about earlier, both having what he was good at, also having understanding that freedom part. You know, he was honest with me, and as much as I probably, and then don't get it wrong, it wasn't one side. I'm certain I had a little attitude as well. But you know, those things being together, it was just. And what was it? How'd you ask in the question?
How would you have coached yourself?
Yes, that
back
was
in
the
high
question.
school? Yeah.
That's my point. I would be more patient with how would I coach myself? I'm thinking about all the things I say to my kids.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because you have a different perspective now, right?
And that's why I had to make sure I take a second, because I talk about this all the time. I coach from a perspective of all the accolades I had, and great. All that stuff was cool. I did a lot of good things, but I also did a lot of things, you know, that weren't great.
Yeah.
And, you know, if I did these things differently, I would have, you know, maybe still be playing basketball. So I coach every day from that perspective, from the don't have an attitude, from the character, from having good character, from being a good teammate, from, you know, all of those things, from playing hard as you can, no matter if your shot's not dropping today, you know, being defensive minded, all of those things with Kern, and not just Kern, but we talking about Thornwood, tried to reel in me, but I was just good at basketball. I didn't really understand. I'm like, man, I want to play. Yeah. I don't want to do all that. You know, I want to get out here and hoop. But I realized how, as soon as I got to Brewster, to every college that I went to, how much more advanced I was than everybody that was coming from college. So I say all that to say, my younger self I would say, hey, you know, these things that you may not like, you know, those are the most important things. And why you should have skill and get in the gym and grind, these small things will outweigh all of that other stuff. And if you happen to be good, you gone. You know, but make sure you are okay with doing the irritating things. And that's kind of the mode I'm taking with my son. You know, he wants to play basketball and do all this. But those things that I really didn't like, that I shunned from, why I'd end up transferring and all those things. As a kid, I was a little kid, I didn't understand. I would tell myself, hey, these things are way more important than you can understand, for sure.
All right, before we transition to what you got going on now, which is super dope and super important, I got two questions I got to ask you. Who were your toughest matchups that you could think of back in high school against guys you went against? And then who would be on Trey Blue's Mount Rushmore of Thornwood basketball?
Okay. Toughest matchup. I think we had a lot of good conference matchups. But I have to be honest. We went downstate, you know, our junior year, all that. Ended up playing Marshall.
Yep.
Coach Kern let us be free, like I'm talking about. And they folded us like a pancake. He had like 30 points. He played like 2 quarters.
Yeah, we talked. We had mentioned to Reggie. He said the same thing. He was like, the game was close until Patrick Beverly came in the game.
We're good game. We hooping. You know, he's not, Coach Kern letting us roll. We having a good old time. You know, doing all kind of stuff. And it's a good game. Patrick Beverly entered, and it was finito. But I won't even say that matchup because he, you know, like he was just different. He was better. This was a real matchup that I was looking forward to. So we come back the next year. And again, we go downstate. We know one team in the suburbs, all that. Marshall went downstate. They top 1 or 2 in the city probably. Darius Smith, he was, I think Shorty might have been a freshman. He plays so hard. Could care less about how many points he had. I don't even know if he had 10 points. Might have had 6 or 8.
Just Westbrook mentality.
He just played so hard. And I was going into that game with a little animosity because they beat us that bad. Pat Beverly gone. You know, they had a good team. But, and again, I give him his pride as a kid. He was a kid. I think he was a freshman. Could have been a sophomore. I don't know. But couldn't do nothing. You know, he had me completely locked. And we was at Chicago State. I was like, you know, this the type of stuff I was ready for.
Man, you know, it's tough. Tough to get a hooper to say somebody else clamped them. But
no. I mean, I'm a real basketball person, man. You know, I done killed a lot of guys, you know, but I gotta give Shorty his props. And he don't know this, you know, but I thought about that game a lot after. I'm like, dang, this kid really just made me. We just lost by 20 at Chicago State, and I've been wanting to play city teams and all this. It's my senior year. I bought some shoes for the game, and it was bad. And, you know, but again, it was, like I said, one day he was doing step backs on us. He was just playing hard. And again, I know Pat. I played with AAOU with Pat and Jovan K-Tron. Been in the gym, and I know Pat play hard. Like, Pat would score 40 points, 20 off steals. So I'm familiar, but this kid was just different on the defense. He was an animal. Yeah, so that was definitely one of my toughest matchups. I give a shout out to Lawrence Redmond. He was always a problem in the conference. He went to TF North. A lot of guys don't probably even remember him. He was a real killer.
Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of Thornwood?
We've asked everybody, man. So we're getting the consensus here.
So what's on Rushmore? 5?
4.
4. Eddy Curry, Reggie Hamilton. I have to say, for me, personally, I don't, you know, there's a few people that have had a better career than his name I'm about to say, but for me personally, like I said, I shoot threes from half court. This guy inspired me to do that. Eric Gray.
Jeremy had him on his too.
Yeah, I mean, I was amazed going to watch him shoot the ball.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, and I haven't seen that many people do it, you know, to this day.
And to have Jeremy on that same team.
I mean, Jeremy, now don't get it twisted.
That
Jeremy,
was like Stephen Curry before that.
Oh my God, they were, and now they had freedom.
Yeah.
And they were just, I mean, it was crazy to see them light people up like that, you know, back to back 3 balls. But Eric was, the way he catch and shoot, it was just different. And at that time when I was watching him, he had everybody in the whole state talking about the way they were shooting the ball. I remember they played Whitney Young last. I think I said it before. So I have to throw Eric on there because I was a fan of his. I also was a fan of Aubrey Connolly. I will say, and again, that's why I asked how many, because I will say Moss and Buckley had amazing careers after Thornwood, so they got to get their props. But, you know, for me, those will be my first 4. Them 2 will come after. But again, I know it's a bunch of guys. Reggie, that's my brother. Reggie's inspired me. You know, he was my sidekick. You know, we was doing that together. And he kind of let me lead the way in high school. But, you know, it's a story I told him. You know, I told a lot of people this, but him going to college and doing what he did. And I knew Reggie. I knew the work ethic he had. Him going, doing all the things that he did after we, left each other and had the run that we had together. It inspired me as a human, just to because I know, he was good, but I know how hard he worked to get to where he was at. And it was like, we should led the country in scoring.
Yeah.
My teammate, my dog, my brother, that I was with every day. We go to college, you get away from each other. And now again, he's, that's not, Duke, Kansas, everybody.
Yeah.
I tell people in my program all the time, like, you can never stop working. And, he's my daughter's godfather. Like, I love him. And again, if he wasn't a good basketball player, he wouldn't go on Mount Rushmore. But he's my brother, and he's, to me, he had an amazing high school career and one of the best college careers, period, of anybody that I know.
That's come out of Thornwood.
Out of Thornwood and lots of places.
Yeah.
He had an amazing college career, so he absolutely deserves to be on there just as much as he's my brother. Got to be on there, man.
So something kind of just popped in my head too, and you kind of triggered it, because if you think about it, all the great Thornwood teams that we talk about, the team with Eddy, the team with you all, the team with Jeremy, it's a tandem on every team. It's two. So you had Eddy and Melvin, or you could say Eddy and Moss. Then the next year you had Moss and Melvin. You had Jeremy and Eric, and then you had you and Reggie.
Yeah.
So how do you feel you and Reggie would have held up against those other guys? Because like I said, one thing I know about you all is that, and Reggie spoke on this too, is you all kind of had that. I mean, you had the skill for sure, but you all had that mentality.
Yeah.
It's like you don't care who you were going against.
Yeah,
you knew it was about to be something for real.
Me and him, the teams that we beat our junior year, and no disrespect to our team, but we were tiny. The mental stuff that coach put us through. I mean, we came back our senior year to start. We went downstate. For me to start in my senior year, I had to have the highest heart rate minutes. We had to wear a heart rate monitor.
I remember that.
And
Current had them little things, the straps around you.
You had to get heart rate minutes. He could care less that we went downstate. And those type of things had us, people were wondering, like, man, how is these little guys always winning these games and beating this team? And that, even HF. HF thought they was going to crack us. But from that standpoint, I do think, we match up right there with all of them. Minus, anybody 6'7" plus. Yeah, anybody our size, we right there, mano y mano. We go anyway, any day. Yeah, for sure. But that's cool. I never thought about those, the duo.
Yeah, because I think it's funny, Reggie has said, like, well, everybody got to guard Eddy. If we said, y'all era versus, that era back then. But even if you, like you said, if you took the forwards out, or you just played a two-man game, with the guards, I think if you play that game, 10 times, it's probably split down the middle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Reggie was an ultimate scorer. Reggie can score the ball on anybody. He probably can score it on Eddy. But, and again, his mentality, and we played together well. In those 2 years I came back, we just always knew where each other were, and it was just the right flow all the time, every game. If I scored this game, he was scoring his game. I remember one game that, we only had like 40 points, but whatever the addition is, I had like 20, he had like 18 or something like that, and then somebody else had like 3. But, we were, again, not scoring a lot of points. We were still able to get it done, find a way. He was always a motivator. He always played so hard. And I wanted to have his back, just like he had mine. Like, we was rolling together. And now I'll say this. Our era versus their era, Kobe Johnson does not get hurt. Different story.
I agree 1,000%. And that's not even in just basketball. That's in football, too. He was on football, too.
Different now, just as much as I was, legendary and Reggie is legendary. Kobe was different. I wasn't what Kobe was. I was not, he was the only person. We all played on the same AAU team. Me, Kobe, Derrick Rose. He was the only person that I ever seen go at pool. Like, yeah, you good, well, I'm good too. You jump high, I jump high too. And he had a different mentality when he came in. I hate that he got hurt, man. We just talked about it. He was over my house the other day. You put him on our basketball team, nobody beat us. Because he was, now, without the injury, it would have been Kobe, then me and Reggie. Because he was that good, He was athletic, man. He was, that's a story, too. Just like Julian's situation kind of got messed up. Kobe getting hurt, oh, my gosh. As good as we was, people just don't know. They don't know.
I remember I was a senior when you all were freshmen, and I can only speak on the football side of it. I mean, I know he was good at basketball, but I remember seeing him as a freshman. I'm like, this kid is a freshman? Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, he was on sophomores, and then they were even bringing him up to varsity for practices and stuff like that. Yeah. Just a unreal natural athlete, Kobe. I'm glad you brought him up because I wish.
Shout out to Kobe, man.
Yeah, I remember in Reggie's episode, I'm like, man, I wish we'd talked about Kobe a little bit more too because he was definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they won state. They beat Poonen in the state playoffs. Like Kobe was for real, and just that other piece to the duo would have been. Because we didn't have Rashad Singleton was the athlete on our team. We didn't have athletes. Yeah. We didn't have nobody jumping. Everybody else throwing 3, 4, 5 athletes. Mm-hmm. Kobe would have been the one that would play above the rim, and me and Reggie shooting the ball. It would have. Oh man, like I said, I talk about it often, but it would have been a completely different story.
For sure, but we gotta transition to what you got going on right now. I would say just as important as your playing career and everything, what you got going on with Blueprint Hoops and the kids. Just talk a little bit about what you got going on with that.
Oh yeah, man. It's a blessing, to be able to give all the things I've learned on my journey back to young kids. And I wanted to start with the babies. I started this with really, really young kids. Now some of them are in 8th grade, but I wanted to build it from the ground up rather than, I've been asked to coach multiple high schools. But I didn't want to, start at that level. I wanted to bring kids up and, have some of my DNA in them from the ground, and just train them that way. So that's kind of how it started. Obviously started with my son, but it's turned into a real full-time, everyday business. It's my day-to-day job. We got 100-something kids, 150 kids in the program, probably maybe 200. From me moving back from Miami, just one, my son not to learn basketball from the gym teacher, That was really why I started. But, 3 kids turned to 6, 6 turned to 12. And now I do believe we got one of the best, young youth programs in the country. But the thing about it is everybody sees all the games and us winning and traveling around the country and all that stuff. This started with training, we didn't have teams at first. We had a group of kids that were coming to the gym every day, little bitty kids, showing them some things, teaching them things that I learned in high school and college as babies. And now people are starting to see that come into they've been learning high level stuff since they was kids, and everybody's trying. I mean, not since they was kids, since they were babies. Now they 4th, 5th, 6th grade, and we rolling on everybody. But I did it purposely to start them that way. And like I said, it's turned into a family business. It's pretty cool to be able to do it. And I said, as much as I played basketball and had a good old time as a professional, I believe this is what I'll be remembered for. You know, when I'm no longer here, all of these kids and families that are getting something different for their kid, you know, something good. You know, I think, like I said, when I hear them, I think that's what more so I'll be. You know, I think my son could take this on and continue to give kids a higher level understanding than your average drop them off at the basketball gym. So it's been life changing, man. It's cool, man, for sure.
So, like, anybody that knows you, or if anybody watching that doesn't really know Trey, you've always been like a real low key kind of person.
Yeah, for sure.
And your passion has always been basketball. And I don't want to say, I can see the passion you have and what you're doing now. Like, it's very obvious, man. And it's you can just tell that you're so happy doing what you're doing. Like, and so basically, what I want to know is, like, say 5 or 6 years or 5 to 10 years from now, where do you want the program to be? Are you at where you want to be at? Do you want it to grow even more? What do you want it to be?
I mean, I want it to continue to grow as big as it is. You know, I say this to, you know, some people in my program. We've come from this city with millions of people and all these NBA guys and, you know, lots of great basketball players. And there's only a couple of options for you to play, you know, high-level AAU basketball. For some very great programs. But it's not, you know, we don't got this NBA guy with this team and that team. So, you know, coming into it, I want to be that, you know, another option for kids to say, hey, you know, I can make it to college through this program. And as much as we win games and everybody's talking about us and how we, you know, came in and we're doing real well and all that's cool. I tell people all the time, I could care less about us winning the children's basketball game. You know, like, we're going to win because we put the work in. Yeah. But my championship will be, and this goes to your question, will be when I see these kids go to college or even, you know, starting varsity. And me being able to go watch them play, knowing that they came from 4 or 5 years old through my program. That is what's going to do it for me. You know, a lot of people have aspirations for their lives, and, you know, my kids and my family first. But again, you know, this will be my piece, you know, as I become an old man, because, you know, I'm only 36, but, you know, it's coming one day when I, you know, as I transition into those years, this will be cool to see all of these kids doing a bunch of things, even if they're not going to basketball. Like I said, all of the other things that we're teaching them, and they're going to be successful, you know, leaders of the world, and that'll be, you know, my happy place when I reach a certain age, for sure. Yeah.
Sure. So I sense that you were getting ready to get into it in a part of your answer just then, but we talked, you know, off camera, and you have some thoughts that, you know, I want to hear. What do you enjoy about, you know, the AAU circuit right now, youth basketball? What are the, you know, the pros and the cons? What are the things that you enjoy, and what are the things that you see from your lens that you would like to improve?
The AAU circuit, a lot of people got a bunch of different opinions. But to me, we travel the places we travel for us to see, okay, yes, we putting in work, we learning high level stuff, but trust me, there's also someone else somewhere that's working just as hard. So for me, I do think it's a good measuring stick to see, hey, I'm in Chicago, Idaho, Nebraska, California, Florida. I think it's an amazing platform to be able to measure yourself against people, other kids around the country, 100%. But, you know, there are some programs, there's so many programs now, there are some programs that's just going to take your money. And that's how you play some basketball games. And not teach nothing, you know, and not gain anything. But but they'll pay for this kid to come and they'll put him in a tournament. And you got a lot of that. But again, I think it's you as a parent, you got to say, hey, that's my fault if I put my kid in that situation. No, here, and again, not just us, there are absolutely AAU programs that are teaching the right thing, playing the right way, preparing kids for college. As you can see, the NBA, most of the guys, everybody still plays AAU, but at the small grassroots level with the really young kids, you got a lot of guys that's just taking money, 100%, no question about it. But again, you got to get in the gym and listen and see, hey, is this a real basketball environment? Does this guy know, has he ever touched the ball, or is he just trying to not go to the crib after work? And again, you as a parent have to be able to gauge that. But yeah, I think it's beneficial 100% to get outside and see that competition. It's very important to me, because again, for example, us, we play here with the exception of a few teams. There's no one here for us to play anymore. That's just how good our teams have became over time. So in order for us to get a good measuring stick, we got to go on the road. For example, we played here 3 weeks ago at Hammond Sportsplex. We played, I don't know who they were. I'm not going to say their name. We scored 115 points. This is my 7th grade basketball team. It was 108 to 15. I did not let my team dribble the ball at all the whole second half. And they scored like 50 points in the second half, but that was good for me. They made a lot of threes, they played good ball. But those are the things I have to do now. Not every game, but but again, that's still me teaching, hence what I said. I'm still, hey, we're not just finna beat you by keep stealing the ball from you over and over, making layups. That's not gaining anything from my children. That's a wasted day to me. Hey, this team is not great. Let's still gain. We only playing man-to-man. If you reach, you coming out. If you dribble the ball, you're coming out the game. Now we're going to have to figure out how to, use our minds a little bit, do some back cut and move without the ball. And again, they made a lot of shots in that game, so it was a gain for me instead of us just, like I said, making a whole bunch of layups. But again, you get some people that will get on the road, go to AAU tournament, bring a whole bunch of old kids, steal the ball every time, act like they're doing something, and that's for them. If you're going to win a game by a lot of points, gain from the day. And that's how I think that's why my parents and my program see the difference in that when we have those blowout games, we do a lot of different things to still learn and not just win the basketball game. You know what I'm saying? But you don't, like I said, you don't have that a lot.
So just from an outsider's perspective, because I'm not, overly involved in any AAU or anything, but like you said, it seems like there's a lot of clout chasing in AAU. 100%. But you kind of answered it, what you just said. But for a parent or a kid that is looking for a program and are interested in coming to your program, what is your selling point to your kids or kids that are interested in even coming? Is it just word of mouth at this point, or how do you convince someone to say, hey, this is the program that's for you?
I always say, come to the gym. I'm not going to spew nothing out of my mouth and tell you how good it is. Come to the gym and see the type of things we're doing. And, a lot of people think we be cheating, because we win a lot of games. But I just told, it was a recipe. We have really in the gym. I'm really teaching these kids stuff that I didn't learn until I was in college. And so, like I said, selling point always been, hey, come see, come listen to the environment, talk to the other parents. But when people come to our training, they don't leave. They like I said, I done had a lot of these kids for years, and that sounds crazy because they still kids. But majority of the kids on my teams and my programs, especially, sixth grade and under, they were with me, and they couldn't even dribble at all. Kindergarten, first grade, and now they're growing and getting to that point. But it's just come see the difference. I know you as a parent, you might have been in a different gym, a different program, but just come see the difference in how we operate and what we're teaching. Don't look at the basketball games because we went into games. That's not what we're doing this for. Don't be confused. That's not what we're doing. If we do it for development, for these kids to be able to leave blueprint and fit right in.
That's dope because,
yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to say, oh, man, I was part of AAU team. We had AAU Success. What does that mean, though?
Nothing.
So, I mean, it's commendable.
Because I'll speak from the baseball angle when it comes to, like, travel ball. And, Trey, you can stop me at any point if you disagree, but there's a lot of kids in travel ball, in baseball, and then in AAU with basketball that don't need to be there. It's overpopulated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
But they're there because they have a father or they have a parent who's got FOMO, fear of missing out. He didn't reach the levels that he wanted to reach, so he's going to force his kid to do something that his kid isn't ready for. It's a lot of kids in travel ball and baseball who still need to be playing rec ball. They need to be in Cal Ripken and Little League.
Absolutely.
It's kids in AAU and basketball who probably need to be playing in the league at the YMCA, But and then the kids who are the parents of the kids who don't need to be there, now they the ones who run with the narrative, oh, well, Blueprint Hoops cheating because they just beat us by 80.
Yeah.
No, you just got a group of kids who don't need to be here.
You shouldn't have got this
and I don't even say
Yeah.
that disrespectfully. They just,
No, it's the truth.
Levels.
Yeah,
It's levels
for
to
sure.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the truth. You have, but again, you got guys that'll take your bread. You got guys that'll just say, he in third grade, whatever, I'm gonna take his mama money. But with us, with how I have structured my program, I don't allow you to do that. I have an Evolve team, Express team, then we got a National. National, you traveling and going. Express, trying to, we go play some local games and get Evolve. I treat Evolve, and I no disrespect to none of the kids on the Evolve team. All of our parents know this. That stage is, I treat it just like they going outside to play. Because they don't do that no more. Going outside to the park 5-on-5. Step one is coming in the gym. I don't even allow you to play on my basketball team. None of them unless you are actively training. You can't just come, trying to get little Johnny, to hang out for a couple hours. Now, do you got to be cold? No, I got a level for everybody. But again, that level one, that stage one is, hey, let's learn to compete. We're not going to be entering no tournaments. We're not traveling nowhere. It's something called, we got some one-day shootouts. You go play 2 games a weekend and learn to compete. Let's get out here, play hard, treat it as if we outside. Let's just, do some of the things you learn at training, but don't expect to win that. We not, if we win, hey, it's great because we're working. But it's a step one, learn how to, as if you don't know this kid that we at the park, they don't go through that no more. We not putting no X's and O's on those kids. Like you said, it's almost as if they at the Y, but I'm not going to put those children in the biggest basketball tournament,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And my parents appreciate that. On the flip end, like I said, that some other programs say, you want to play? All right, cool. Send me my G. We got a tournament tomorrow. And then you get to tournament, you lose by 50, and then you mad at us because you don't got no business being here. You know what I'm saying? And it's just all about the work. The parents got to be honest and say, hey, my kids need development. He doesn't need to go travel anywhere and play because it is so oversaturated. So many kids that are playing AAU that just need to be training. But again, like I said, they don't get it. The world's different now. They don't go outside and hoop like we used to. So a lot of parents are using that and trying to make this. But again, don't get ahead of yourself. If you want a kid to play a basketball game, sign them up for a little league at home, where they just put everybody on a different team. Don't pay $2,000 for everybody that's listening. Don't pay $2,000 for a season and your child, he or she is not ready to take on those responsibilities. Don't do it. Put them in training first. Let them have some fun. Let them learn the game, And then over time, they will get ready for all that.
Message.
And again, it's crazy for me. You would think me in my position, this is my business. This is how I take care of my family. Like I don't have another job. Only Blueprint is how I take care of my entire family. You would think a person in my position would not be saying this. No, but I'm not in it for that reason. I love basketball. That's why I'm doing this. It so happened that I got a certain expertise that I'm able to, receive funds for training and all those type of things. But you would think I would say, hey, no, don't pay. No, I'm not finna. I'm not that type. But there's a lot of those guys, and that to me is why everybody's like, hey, you is this, and hey, you, because it's 75%. I'm gonna take that bread. You're not gonna have a lot of guys that's going. Because again, I told you, my championship is gonna be me turning on that TV, seeing 4, 5, 6 of my kids playing a game of basketball, being able to go watch them. That's my goal. I was able to blessed to make some money playing basketball. I wasn't broke when I did Blueprint. I didn't start it to make money. It just turned into a business. So again, I hope a lot of people do listen to me and say, and hear and say, hey, don't give that guy your money. Don't give it. Use that money on training. Take your kid to get him better. Let him find a park outside. Take him, even if you got to sit with him because it may not be safe. Take him to the park. Let him, go through those things before you spend thousands of dollars for your kid to be on the internet going to this tournament and that tournament. So that would be my advice for sure.
Yeah, man. Both CJ and I, we both coach, man. I can tell you got the coaching bug, man, and it's a beautiful feeling, man. Just be able to give back to the sport that you love, and we're both super proud of you. So, hey, anybody watching that doesn't already know, just take advice because this man been through it. He's been through it. He's lived it. He is a Thornwood legend. We're not just gassing him. This is legit as it gets right here. So if you need someone to take advice from, if his program doesn't already speak for itself, let us brag on him and let you know that this man, he's definitely the person you want to go to if you want, like I said, your son or daughter to thrive. So, and that's not even me just gassing you. That's just being honest.
I
and
appreciate
real.
it.
Yeah,
For sure. But before we sign off, you got anything coming up that you want to plug or get out there for the people?
Man, we gonna be in the gym each and every day. We got a few cool trips coming up. About to go to Adidas Nationals. We were able to get sponsorship through Adidas. Going to World Championships in Orlando. But I do want to say this, man. Something cool that happened for the program that was, astronomical in my view. Ball is Life. They collab with us and did merchandise for us. Like Ball is Life was what I grew up on. Ball is Life was my Instagram. Wasn't able to flip our phones up and watch the highlights like that. It was just Ball is Life. So for them to reach out and even want to do anything with us was just super cool. I know even all the little kids, they see they got millions of followers now, so they resonate with it from this standpoint. But, that was the first joint, man, like Ball is Life. So it's super special to me, man. Shout out to y'all for rocking with it. True Heights also gave been some vitamins. They've been doing some stuff for us. So, just other people taking notice of the program and everything we doing is super cool. So, man, thank y'all, man.
For sure, man. I guess I'll just sign us off with this, man. Like David has said, or when we kicked off the episode, super happy that we was able to make this happen. You know, you got, 3 people sitting here with lives and schedules that we had to balance, and we finally made it happen, which I'm happy for. For any of y'all listening, watching, man, please take that man's advice if you got a son or a daughter, trying to make it happen in hoops. And, for sure, man, just like a legend in his own right from his playing career. But what he's doing right now with Blueprint Hoops now and in the future is going to be even more legendary, in my opinion. So, once again, we want to thank Trey Blue for coming through. I'm CJ, that's David.
Thank y'all, man. I appreciate y'all, man. This was a dope experience. I'll be back soon for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And we'll check y'all again next time on Room A108.